All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, Yo-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan.
Wow.
Are you saying that? Are you guys claiming? Because I didn't really get.
You can either be an eagle or you can be a duck. You can be an eagle
because
or you
I
can be
didn't
a
get
duck.
any closure. I didn't get any finality to it. I watched the Super Bowl, and as soon as the final touchdown was scored, I'm out.
Right.
But I didn't see in the text chain, like, Pardsy, great. You guys are champions? Under what grounds?
All right. We have all afternoon to establish this. Luke
Yes.
Wilson is landing at Pearson, I believe, in the next 90 minutes.
By the way,
us.
we all got abused for our picks.
Picks were bad. It was not a good.
Yeah.
It was not a good slate. I had a really tough night last night on a lot of different fronts.
Dude, I just got to say, for going against Mahomes,
I
you
know.
guys should be done.
It's awful.
That should be a loss.
It's awful.
Yeah.
I just saw Al's brother. He was on his way out of the studio.
And what did he have to say for
Well,
himself?
it's like we're wounded dogs. You know what I mean? Like we're kind of like, hey, congratulations, man. Like it was one of those things. It's like you won a bronze medal game, but you'd prefer if you just lost and you went home early. You know, you were forced into playing the bronze and you had your eyes on the gold medal. And I think, again, technically, the way the playoffs played out, we were John Cooper, you were Sheldon Keefe, a lot of respect in the handshake line, and we end up victorious. But it's not exactly
but how, though? You got to tell me how. I thought both of us went 1-6.
1-5 yesterday. Yeah, which again I think tie goes to who had the lead in the playoffs, which clearly would be us. But
Is that what
outta
we're
here.
basing it on? Is tie goes to whoever had the lead
No,
in the playoffs?
dude, that's a slick. And
I
it's the
thought there was
seasons
a
of
clear-cut win here. Is
No.
there not a clear-cut win?
Noodles,
Not really,
please don't
Noodles.
add to the fire. It's
No, I'm
we
trying to help
agreed,
you.
even Steven into the Super Bowl, and if both records were 1-5, that is literally a wash for the season. I'm sorry. There's not a winner declared. There's
All right.
not a winner declared.
okay, between now and when Luke joins us, Luke is coming up around 6:30. We will get some sort of clarity on that. Maybe you can throw a poll up online, Doogie. Doogie's behind the glass. A lot of things are moving around here. A lot of things are shaking around here.
Yeah, but what poll could he possibly go up? Doogie, if your mic's working, were we both 1-5?
Yes.
If that's the case, it's a wash.
All right.
Sorry.
Well, there's got to be some sort of declared winner. Like last night, they didn't get to overtime and shake hands and say, we'll split the Lombardi. Like there was some sort of an answer on it. And, you know, last night's game, credit to the Chiefs, you know, credit to Mahomes, Andy Reid.
Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And like that was something that I don't know. Like that game was slow to start off with, and then it was slow, but then it built. It built up. Like that was a good game by the end.
Massive props to Mahomes. He's the flashier version of Tom Brady, where it's like you need 1 yard on fourth down, he gets it. You need 3 on third down, he gets it. And it's just, you knew that he was going to march down the field and get them in a position for a field goal to tie. And then at the end, it was like, nah, screw it. He just doesn't need, he's going to get a touchdown.
Well,
it's unbelievable how that guy, he just can't bet against them. And it's scary to think what they're going to do in the next 3 or 4 years. Maybe they're going to be even better. Who knows?
That's
I can't
what's
see
crazy.
That.
What's crazy
this is like their worst team.
They've won back-to-back Super Bowls since they traded Tyreek Hill.
Yes.
They traded that guy, and they've won back-to-back Super Bowls. This was the year where everything was transitioning. Everything was about Mahomes had the highest cap hit in football, the highest cap hit in football. They had rookie receivers. They had guys who couldn't make catches. You had, guys who might have been distracted. You had injuries. You had obviously contract issues early in the year. Chris Jones didn't even start on time. Like there were so many things hanging over this team. Not to mention they had to go on the road, right? They had to go into Buffalo and slay that dragon again, into Baltimore, slay that dragon again, face the Niners, who are loaded and a great team, and find a way to make up a 10-point deficit again and win the Super Bowl. It really is frightening to think what Kansas City could do in the future. And their defense was phenomenal last night.
Phenomenal.
I thought Kyle Shanahan got really exposed on multiple occasions late. I think he's got to own that a lot last night. The fact that they got the blitz, all-out blitz with 1:57 to go in regulation, and he didn't have a play to pick that up. Then in overtime, Chris Jones, who's like the best pass-rushing defensive tackle in football, comes right through the house unchecked and you got to resort to a field goal in overtime. I'm not sure he knew the overtime rules. I really don't. And at a minimum, his team certainly didn't. Like,
there
that
was
became
reports
very
today
clear.
that the multiple people didn't know.
They
the
had no
overtime
idea.
rule.
The Niners had no idea that regardless of scoring a touchdown on that first drive in overtime was going to result in the Chiefs having a chance to match it. They had no idea, the players. And it came out again afterwards. The Chiefs are like, oh, we were prepping for that since day one at camp. And multiple times over the last 2 weeks, we went over our game plan in overtime. That's Andy Reid up against Kyle
it's
Shanahan.
Scary, Hayes. What goes into an NFL season, and Luke knows all about it. It's like all the teams' training camps, all the teams' OTAs, preseason games, the whole season, and it comes down to nobody can beat that one guy.
Well,
you know what I mean? It's like if you have that one guy, that's why he is the boogeyman, because it's just like when he's in control of the situation, you're just not beating him, man. Like when all the chips are down, and you could talk about the defense, which they deserve their props, and Spags gets a lot of love. Everybody gives that guy his flowers, which he deserves. The defense was incredible. Mm-hmm. But it's that guy, man. It's just he gets it done. How many times yesterday, like I thought it was a big-time trend, like just low snaps. Like it seemed like a lot of snaps were low.
Yeah.
And he just bent down, picked him up, and it's like, there you go, there you go, there you go. And he's just a machine.
Yeah.
And they had an ISO of him sitting on the bench, like right near overtime or right near the end of the game, and he was just he looked like he was sitting in a field looking at flowers.
Right.
And I'm like, this guy, this can't be real.
No, he did. Yeah. He looked like Forrest Gump on the bench waiting for a bus. He's
and he was like, I guess I'm going to go out there soon. And
yeah,
I'm like, is that guy for real, man?
Well, that's the lineage we're talking about here. Mahomes, Brady, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, Federer in his prime, Mariano Rivera in the ninth. Like, there's certain athletes, and a lot of those are individual athletes, Tiger, Serena, Federer, like individuals. Yeah. But in team sports, it's even more rare because of how much you have to rely on other people. But it is true. I mean, that is the DNA of Patrick Mahomes, is regardless of what happens leading up to it. Because it's not like they were chasing the game all night. They were chasing it last year against Philly, chasing it 5 years ago against the Niners. Like, they do not get a fast heartbeat when they are down, which is a sign of leadership, a sign of confidence, and a sign of greatness. And the fact that he can get the ball in his hands and you just know he's going to win. Like, after Moody kicked that field goal in overtime, they should have met at half-field, just said, great game. Awesome stuff. You guys win. That was awesome. Thanks for coming out. Because there was no chance Mahomes wasn't going down the field and scoring a touchdown. That's the exact same thing Brady did for 20 years. Yes. You just knew it. You're like, Brady's going down. And the times Brady lost, like to the Giants, it was Eli that pulled that on him. He didn't have the ball at the end. Eli pulled off the miraculous going down the field and getting things done. And that's why even evaluating Brock Purdy, I thought Purdy was good. But dude, that's what he is. He's good.
But
he's not great.
Need to
he's
understand.
Good.
He was good. He is good. It's almost like yesterday's game is exactly what that guy is.
Yeah.
He's going to do some incredible things and some stuff where you're like, man, that's impressive, starting quarterback NFL. But when you get Mahomes, what did he have, 3 points in the first half?
Yes.
Yeah, it's 10-3 at the half.
When you got that guy only putting up a 3 spot, you got to just put up more. Like, I'm sorry, there has to be some understanding when they keep running off the field that you got to keep putting up some more points try to put them away because you know he's coming back.
3 points, and they were rattled. That's the thing that
fights on the sidelines. Andy Reid was getting steamrolled.
Kelce, I know. Like you got guys unraveling, and the TS like that. I thought
that
Andy
right
Reid
there, Noodles, is the double standard in sports right there. If that's a backup like DB or something.
Oh yeah, no,
that guy is told to take
in
his
Siberia
gear
right now.
No,
yeah, exactly.
The police are called.
Yeah.
But he laughed. I can't believe Andy Reid laughed that off. He's like, he got me off balance there. I was like,
yeah, it's a great point.
You know what?
It's a great point.
I agree. I kept thinking people would be like, that guy, it's elder abuse, you name it. Like there was all sorts of like things floating around. You know what? Andy Reid even said in his postgame, he's like, that's not the first time that guy's come over to me. And like, these guys are intense. He wanted the ball. You could tell. Yeah, I thought it crossed the line, but it did. Maybe it caught him off balance. I don't know. It was a weird transaction. I will say that. I hadn't seen that before, where it was the coach kind of stumbling around. Like it may have caught him off balance, but Reid
anybody else, take your gear off and get out of the building.
He handled it well.
And, well, here's a couple different reasons, because O brings up the appropriate point here. Double standard. We always say this. Superstars have different rules than guys further down the lineup, than depth guys. If that's the 53rd man, and there's a privilege that comes with a superstar, the 53rd guy on the team would never do that. He doesn't even want to look at Andy Reid.
He doesn't go in the vicinity of the coach.
Wouldn't even be close to him. And if he was close to him, security would tackle him and say, "Who are you again? And why are you close to that guy?"
It was just like a couple years ago in Minnesota, Billy Belichick. It was a good player. I forget whose name it was. He sat his ass on the bench the whole game.
Yeah, that was really offside and completely over the top. And Kelce tried to laugh it off afterwards. I guarantee you, there's a mea culpa coming there. And also the double standard of a narrative that comes with winning and losing, where if the Chiefs win, it's uber competitive, freakishly competitive, hates to lose, so emotional, wants the ball, all good. And then if they lost, it would have been unravels. That guy's a sore loser.
Yeah, cancer in the room.
Exactly.
All about him. You're right. There is a narrative that comes with that, but they won.
Exactly.
Like that's the thing. Like, we're not talking about that today, him being, because I guarantee you, people, there would be, if they lost last night, there'd be whispers of, this guy doesn't care about football. He doesn't care. He only cares about Taylor Swift. He's a bad teammate. There'll be all this garbage that would come out from people that probably didn't know. But it's last night, the narrative is this guy's a competitor and he wants the ball, and you know what? They won. They don't have to answer to anybody today.
No, they don't. They absolutely don't. You're right about that. I mean, it was a game that by the end of it, it played out, similar to the previous Super Bowls with these guys. It was Mahomes MVP, Kelce great in the second half, defense awesome, Andy Reid cooking his opponent. In this case, it was Shanahan. Last year, it was Sirianni. Taylor Swift. Like, there's a lot of different things we're going to remember. The halftime show, I can't believe he had roller skates on at one point. I was waiting for him to blow a wheel. I give him full credit.
I had an old man moment because that whole thing started, and I just had a I just said, I'm too old for this. I got to turn the I didn't enjoy it. I don't know why. He's not my favorite artist in the world, but I thought it was a real slow start, and then it got really busy, and then I'm just like, I had an old man moment. I'm like, I'm too old for this. I don't even enjoy this right now.
I think they had some microphone, you couldn't hear him at first.
Yeah.
I think there were some audio issues. The show alone was unbelievable as far as the choreography, all of that type of stuff.
Hey, do you like the roller skates?
I do. I appreciate it, but I was nervous. I thought he was going to blow a wheel, and I'm like, that's going to be the most viral moment in Super Bowl history.
Well, he almost did. I don't know if you remember.
Near the end.
He slid through somebody's legs. I can't remember the guy's leg. He slid through, and he kind of went left. And I was like, oh, no, he's going to bite it there. But I thought it was unbelievable in the sense that, that's a talent, an unbelievable, tremendous talent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. In the back of my mind, this is how weird I am. For some reason, I didn't see Taylor Swift that much. I was like, she's bombing out on the field. She's showing up.
I don't think she would do that to her boyfriend, man. She wouldn't steal the show for her boyfriend.
I kept hearing rumors that Bieber was going to be on there.
But you guys know my one Super Bowl story. I found myself, the second thing I said is, give me Paul McCartney out on the piano. Give him to me.
Wow. On top of that, you have aged, and gracefully, I will say.
No, because you guys know how much I was disappointed in that performance. I'm like, come on, man. You're just sitting on the piano. This is like a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I was like, give me Paul McCartney over this. I just thought it was, I don't know. I thought it was an average performance, man.
I thought it was okay. Listen, I like some Ushers. Everyone knows Usher. He guy's been around for 30 years. He's been, and what it is, because my initial reaction when they announced Usher, I was like, what is it, 2004? And it's like, that's the nature of the Super Bowl. They're always reaching back for Springsteen and Prince and, and that's what Usher is now. Usher was popular in the late 90s. It's 2024. We're showing our age. And I agree with you. The choreography was incredible. The people that came out, Alicia Keys, Ludacris comes out. All that kind of stuff is awesome. The mic issue is not his fault, but that really hurts because you couldn't hear him. And again, all I could think of was, if this guy blows a wheel on those skates, this is going to be the craziest thing we've ever seen.
That's a meme for time. That is a meme for time.
Yes.
That literally is. But you're right. It wasn't my favorite out of all of them, but I thought they did a great job. And that's a lot of pressure. And
Yeah.
I for some reason, I don't know why, I was waiting for something else. I was waiting for Bieber or waiting for something. I don't know why. It just, maybe it was linked because they've done a duet. Like, I don't know. It just, I thought it was a fantastic show, but it wasn't my favorite. That's the way I felt.
Yeah, and I don't know if anyone has favorites. Like, the Super Bowl gets built up every year. You know, you talk about the halftime show, the commercials, like everything's blown out of proportion.
Well, the
generally.
Ben Affleck commercial was unbelievable. I don't know if you saw that with
Well,
Brady.
I don't think it was on up here. The Dunkin' Donuts one.
Yeah,
I
I
think I've
watched it
seen
online today.
Parts
I
of it
watched
online.
It was with Brady and Matt Damon. It was unbelievable. I thought that was one of the. I saw it right away online, but I thought that was one of the best commercials I've seen in a long time, as far as having some fun and stuff like that.
That's kind of all you can ask for, is like one or two creative ones. You know, celebrities are going to get in there. The game goes off. And, you know, is it a memorable game? I don't think so. I mean, every game has its moments, right? Like Greenlaw tearing his Achilles running onto the field was really heart-wrenching to watch. Like, that's a pro athlete that's in the Super Bowl, and he's just dying to get out there, and he blows his Achilles.
It was actually ridiculous.
A tough watch, man.
Like, there's nothing funny about that. Let's clarify that. There's nothing funny about that.
But
like,
they're taking him off in a cart. He got injured being excited, like, you know, revved up for your teammates. Like, they could have used him.
Well, exactly. He's an unbelievable player,
maker.
of course. And he gets hurt just running onto the field. You know, I felt for him. And then, you know, injuries just kind of piled up as the game went on. Kittle and Debo. And that's the nature of the Niners. And, you know, if you don't run away, which they didn't, and you allow Mahomes and company to stick around, that's what you're going to get. You know, and that's what you got last night. And I think, again, in terms of what we're going to remember, yeah, it's probably Taylor Swift, it's Usher, it's Mahomes racking up dynasty, you know, them establishing a dynasty, 3 Super Bowls in 5 years. I think I'll remember flipping back and forth to watch Nick Taylor try to close at the Waste Management, which was incredible.
I'll be straight up. I could not go right directly to that game until Nicky Taylor wrapped that up.
Yeah.
I had to see it because that old buzzsaw, Chuck Hoffman, man, he was not going away, and I thought he had it wrapped up. That was an incredible finish for Nick Taylor.
Yeah.
Incredible finish.
Man, he birdied everything coming home except for the short par 4 17.
I know. He birdied 15, 16,
18.
and 18 to get into a playoff. Once he didn't birdie 17, I'm like, that's probably game over.
Well, he birdied 18 3 times in a row.
I know.
Because he birdied it in the first playoff. And then the second one. Like, when that guy is in it, look out. Like, that's what he proved at the RBC Canadian Open. He is my guy. He witnessed me go 1 under through 9.
Oh my God!
I posted a little something on Insta just to let old Nicky boy know I'm thinking of him.
Did he send you a DM?
No, he's on his way to Riv, dude. He's on his way to LA.
I sent him a DM on Twitter.
You
and I never
sneaky little devil.
No, I got feathers back.
Don't be one of those guys.
We follow each other. I pulled him up, and it was like it says we follow
too, but I'm not going to send him a note. Like, obviously he doesn't know who I am, but he follows me.
Noodles. It was a golf term that golfers share, and it was just something simple like, "Bro, great playing, man. Awesome win." That's all I said. I didn't say, "Hey, can you come on OverDrive?"
No,
that's all I said was, "Great playing, bro. Great win." Something simple like that.
Okay, so you're just sending him love and respect, which is fine.
That's it. I didn't say, "Hey, can you hit me up for an interview?" and nothing.
There will be something like, you hope you get a note back at some point, even a week from now, where he checks his DMs.
I don't think I will.
You might go, "Thanks, buddy."
It's more likely you get blocked. I mean, I don't know for sure, but if you look back on that Pro-Am situation, like, this is how it played out. 2 years ago, we were at St. George's. So O played the front 9, I played the back. And O played the front with Sebastian Munoz. And it went so poorly, he left for Live. All right? He plays on Live now. And my boy Nick Taylor, who I played with on the back, has now won an RBC Canadian Open and a Waste Management. So, you know, it was a real connection. And it's great to see. And
good field too, Hazy.
Great field.
Great field, man. Those are the big boys there, and he beat them all.
Yeah. Now he's on his way to Riviera, and Tiger's waiting for him.
Dude, poor Charlie Hoffman. Hang on a second. Charlie Hoffman asked Tiger for a sponsor's exemption into the Genesis, and Tiger gave him a thumbs down.
Yeah, he did.
Now I think he's going.
He is.
Now I think he's going because of his second place finish. But how? Come on, Tiger, get Chuck Hoffman in the Genesis.
Dude, if he finished, T70 yesterday, no one's calling for Charlie Hoffman to be there. But you're right, he is. He played himself in because Tiger, I guess, said absolutely not.
That guy's ruthless, man. I heard back in the day people would ask him if they could jump on his bird and go somewhere to the next tournament. He'd just be like, no, thanks.
Tiger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thanks.
Good for him, man. It's his. Why? What are you going to do? Every
No,
caddy
but it's just
and
a friendly thing. Like Charlie Hoffman was probably like, I'm going to shoot Tiger a note, maybe get into the Genesis. Hey, T, any shot? And he probably just wrote back, no thanks.
Absolutely not. And I don't want to see you there even as a fan. And now Charlie Hoffman's going to be there. So anyway, yeah, Tiger's, making his big reveal tonight. We'll see what comes of it, I believe, out in L.A. in terms of, the new clothing line and, more on that later this afternoon and throughout the week. But we got a lot to get into today. Again, Dan Patrick will join us at 5 o'clock. Dan was down in Vegas all week. We'll catch up with DP, get his take on the game last night, what he takes out of it from a Chiefs standpoint, a Niners standpoint. I found it interesting that almost immediately the books had the Niners as a favorite to win the Super Bowl next year. And it's as if the books are not learning, like, how do you not have the Chiefs just for the rest of time as the prohibitive favorite to win? I mean, come on. But, yeah, we'll get into that with Dan Patrick. Chris Johnston coming up at 6 o'clock, and we'll come back and get into what happened on Saturday night. A lot of Leaf fans are still buzzing about that. The Leafs are back in action tomorrow with St. Louis in town. St. Louis has been playing well. Like, they've been playing a lot better, and Morgan Rielly will not be playing tomorrow. How long is he out for? We probably won't get that answer until tomorrow. But we'll look back on what was a pretty crazy weekend. Super Bowl, Leafs, Waste Management, and it's going to be a big week as well. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. OverDrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Dan Patrick in just over half an hour, his take on the Super Bowl, the dynasty that is the current Chiefs, the legacy of Mahomes versus Brady, Andy Reid versus Kyle Shanahan. There's a lot to continue to look back on. So we will continue to touch on the Super Bowl. Luke Wilson coming up around 6:30. Chris Johnston, our TSN Hockey Insider, just after 6, as we await the hearing of Morgan Rielly, who is now going to have to fly down to New York. I believe he's accepting that invitation. I think he will meet in person.
I got no problem with taking the invitation, but can I just give my 2 cents on this, please?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So, in the NHL, and I'm not saying I'm just telling people what can happen in that league. If you do something that goes against the grain, that looks a little bit different, someone's going to react to it, and they might not like it, and you're going to pay the price. And that person might be a player, that might be Gary, that might be George Peros, because Ridly Greig went down there and scored the goal. He took the slap shot. That was against the grain. It didn't really look normal. And Morgan Rielly decided that pissed him off and he was in a bad mood. That was against the grain. And then Morgan Rielly said, you know what? I'm going to slam you against the boards and cross-check you. And yes, the cross-check did roll up. It rode up a little high, but Ridly, I keep calling him Reid, Ridly Greig, he knew that was going to cause a problem. He's been around long enough. His dad played in the NHL. He knew, and I like the idea of him wanting to be the villain instead of being just a guy that's out there and he just does his thing and nobody ever notices him. He inserted himself into the Battle of Ontario and he said, I'm going to be a pain in the ass and screw you guys. I love that from him. And Morgan Rielly is the veteran who said, I don't like you did that, and I'm going to toss you against the boards and cross-check you. With Morgan Rielly's history, I don't know how this is more than 2 games. I really don't. I didn't think it was that bad of a cross-check. He's got a clean history, and he decided to take matters in his own hands, and that's all he got. I didn't think that was an egregious cross-check where it was like, oh, my God. And there's no sense of pulling up. Everyone's got a video comparison. There's 7 million that look way worse that gets a fine. Jacob Trouba went to Topgolf on Frederick's Head this year, and he only got a fine.
Yeah, you got a fine.
So there's all these comparisons that people have, and you just can't go by that. But the way I look at it, Rielly did his thing that was against the grain, and now Peros is going to look at that, and I think he should get 2 games for that. I don't know why it would be anything more. People are throwing around numbers I think are ridiculous. It's like
he's going to get more than 2. I mean, in person is. He's going to argue that exactly what you said.
But Noodles, do you think it's more than 2?
I thought it was 4. I don't know why. I don't know why. Let me lay out my. I loved it on both sides. I think Ridly Greig was being the villain and sending a message or doing whatever he wants to do, agitating, and I loved that Morgan Rielly had a response. If Morgan Rielly dropped a stick and punched him in the face, I don't think we're talking about anything here. Reaction was a little bit over the top. That's what it is. And you know what? You cross-check somebody, regardless riding up or not. I always say to whoever fan base, take that, say that's Ridly Greig on Morgan Rielly. What are we talking about today? Like, they're everybody is worked up about it. Remove emotion from it and just looked at the act. I think there was a reaction, and rightfully so, like in a sense where if you're playing the code or not the code. But ultimately, Morgan Rielly's going to pay a price for it.
Well, let me ask you this. How many games did Austin Matthews get for the cross-check on Darlene?
Exactly. He got 2. Two.
There's no way in hell that what he did the other night was worse than what Austin Matthews did.
The only difference I would say is that was a battle between him and Darlene, where this is a reaction.
Yeah, that's why I'm in the middle of both of you. I think 3 because of that. I think, for starters, I think Matthews' cross-check was worse. I thought it was more violent. I think
of course it was.
But it was a battle. It was a very similar situation if you break down the tape. He went to cross-check Darlene in reaction to something. Darlene's arm got up. It got him in the head. The same thing with Greig. Anyone comparing this to Dale Hunter and Pierre Turgeon, they're being intentionally ignorant.
It's ridiculous.
Ridly Greig knew exactly what he was doing, and he saw him coming. He got his arm up. It got his arm. It got his head. Also, the frustration from a lot of this is not about bias or subjectivity when it comes to your fan base. It comes to the complete unpredictability of the Department of Player Safety. That's where a lot of the frustration comes, I think, from Leaf fans, because you can reference other examples around the league and say, how does this make sense?
Yes.
So it is very frustrating that you go into a scenario like this, and it could be anywhere from a game to 15, and it wouldn't even be surprising, although I think it would be difficult for them to justify. Or a fine, for that matter, absolutely. What I will say about what this means for the Leafs, we've said this a lot. What the problem the Leafs have, and I don't believe it was rectified on Saturday night. I loved that Rielly had a reaction. I kind of loved what Greig did, too. I agree with you, Noodles. They're both allowed to do whatever they want.
Exactly.
Riley's getting suspended, of course. Greig's not stupid, though. Right? Let's not pretend like a clapper into the empty net is the equivalent of pushing it in to the empty net. It's provocative. He knows he's getting some sort of a response, and that's what came. And now Riley's going to pay a price for it. But I love that Rielly showed he was pissed off with a loss. What I hated was no one else on the ice did, too.
Everyone else on the ice skated her back and said, no, don't do this. What are we doing here?
And that's the problem that this team continues to have, is that they're always reacting. It'd be great if they won that game and Tyler Bertuzzi scored 5-3 with a clapper and Shabbat came over and did something, but they're always reacting. It clouds over another loss to a bad team where they're up 1-0 3 minutes into the game and they let it get away. Can't happen. But the fact that Marner and Tavares and Matthews and Nylander just come in and say, hey, you guys on the Chiefs or the Niners tomorrow? I hated that. Like, that's a scenario where I can give you an example because it's 6-on-5. Game 4 against the Panthers last year, the Panthers pulled their goalie. They lost the game. And go back and look at it. Sam Bennett comes in flying on McCabe, I think it was, and gloves are off. Panthers are swarming like hounds, and they knew they had them on a disadvantage. They're like, we got 6 guys. These guys got 5. We lost the game. We're going to prove a point here. Yeah. I get it. That's in the playoffs, but it can't just be Rielly that's pissed. That's a scenario where I believe if that's the Panthers, the Bruins, the Lightning, every guy on the ice, his gloves are flying off as they skate down to Ridly Greig.
That's
but
what
the
I
Leafs don't do
about.
it. And
that's what I talked about with Tampa, Florida, Boston.
They all would have come in flying like a pack
Vegas,
of hounds.
If you're going to beat them, it's like you can beat them, but it's like a situation like that, they're going to say, you can get on the bus and then the airport with your 2 points, but I'm going to give you a little something to think about.
Especially when you're provoked.
Gift.
And again, like that's the thing. As much as I really appreciate that one of them had to react, and I like that it was Rielly. I would think of the other 4 we're talking about here. He was the most obvious that was going to do it. But it softens it when the other guys don't react.
Max Domi was there.
Max Domi got in there. He got in there, Max, and Max got in there with Pinto. But the other guys... It's got to be a collective. Like, why is only one guy pissed that it happened? Why is
Right.
it like, okay, Morgan is going to represent all of us here, and he's the one that's going to send that message, and that's what it mutes the conversation for me revolving around, team toughness and reacting to something and protecting the shield and protecting your honor. When I really think there was an opportunity there for all of them to say screw it, all of them to say, you know what, if our guy's going to get a suspension, then we're really going to someone's going to take a beating here tonight.
Pay for it.
Someone's going to pay for it. And again, it was a missed opportunity for any of the other four to say, okay, Rielly did it, I'm going to go do something too. And it didn't happen. And as a result, again, I don't change my opinion of the way they're built and they react in those situations.
But it's just tough to watch, Hayes. It's just tough to watch because they literally came in, Domi got in there on the wall, and then it was like, hey, guys, what are we doing here? Why are we doing this? And it's like, come on.
Yeah,
man.
guys, come in flying. You've got them outmanned.
Yeah, but you know what, Hayes? Like, we've seen it enough.
I know that. It's not going to happen.
If they did anything else, it would just be disingenuous, and then we'd complain about that anyway.
Well,
so we'd be like, they didn't want to do that, so why'd they do it anyway? And then one of them would have got suspended for dropping their gloves, and we would have complained about them dropping their gloves.
I don't think there would have been any complaints about that. There would not have been complaints
But you know what I mean? It's like if it's not in their DNA, I'm tired of asking for something that's just not going to happen.
I get it's not going to happen. And that was proven, again, not to put that spin on, because I like what Rielly did. I like that he was like, screw it. I wish he didn't use his stick. I wish his gloves dropped and he started throwing bombs. But, okay, it happens. I think he deserves a 3-game suspension. You think it's 2, you think it's 4, whatever. The Leafs are okay with it, right? The Leafs thought it was appropriate. They're going to rally around him. We'll see how they play without him in the lineup, because this is going to be a challenge. And believe we got all week to do that. But it was a real, I think, chance for the other guys to say, I'm pissed too. I didn't like that. And I didn't like that we just lost, and I didn't sense that. So what becomes clear to me is you got Tavares, Marner, Matthews, Nylander. They've got their approach to the game, which is fine. Okay, everyone else has got to be a rabid dog. Everyone else on that team has got to collectively say, we're going to side with the way Morgan reacts there. Okay? And if I was on the ice, I'd be flipping out. And if it happens again, I'll flip out with you. Because I'll go into war with Morgan Rielly. Because I think as much as Greig provoked the situation, Riley's action said, I'm not putting up with it, let's go get him. And the other guys were like, nah,
game's over.
It's okay. I'd rather not. And I really did not. I didn't like that.
No, but what was the last time where we talked about this? It was a couple months ago.
Well, Marchand and Liljegren in Boston.
Right. There was that one. I felt like there was one other too, which we've talked about this too much. But, I think there's, like you say, Hayes, like there was Ridly Greig's thing. He can be the villain. And there's Morgan Rielly's reaction to it. Now what concerns me is if he gets 4, 5, a big number, they're missing their top defenseman. And he's, it's not like they got somebody to just slide right in there.
No.
That's what's concerning. Morgan's had an unbelievable year.
Jamie, I'm not like I don't lose sleep over scores, suspensions, and it's not because I wore the jersey. I honestly cannot see how anyone talking about a number that's 4 or 5. It's like you did something stupid, Morgan Rielly. You got a clean pass. Here's a little slap. You get 2 games. You weren't on our radar ever, and now you are with that silly little play, and you're getting a 2-game suspension. Like, call me crazy, but okay. You got to discipline the guy, give him 2 games. I don't see how it's worth any more than that. I really don't. I really don't care what he gets, but I can't see it being – people are saying 4, 5, 6. Are you insane?
That's because you got the in-person hearing. Like, you should brace for it, because that's likely what's coming.
In person is 5, usually. That's – below a phone hearing is usually 5 or below.
I would have said fire me a Zoom. Fire me a Zoom.
I'm pretty sure Gallagher just got invited to one and he declined the invitation. No, I think he got 4, didn't he? I thought he got 4 for his hit to the head. I thought he did. I could be wrong on that, but
that neutralized hit.
Yes, he got 4, I believe. And that's the thing. We could do this all day. Like, again, the Matthews on Dahlin. I would say the bunting on Chernak was 25 times worse, and that was 3 playoff games. What's that, 5 in the regular season?
That's
6?
5 or 6, yeah.
Like, way worse. And he got 3 in the and this is what Keefe had to say about the league reaction, what they're bracing for, and how they feel about what could come in the next day or two.
Surprise, just given we spent a lot of time watching pretty much every cross-check that's happened in the last number of years, and the ones that I thought were similar in nature to Morgan were nothing close to requiring that. But at the same time, I think there's a history also of events that happen in Toronto and with the Leafs that get more attention and more hype that tend to lead to something such as this. So to that end, not surprised.
So that's him effectively indicating, because it's the Leafs, because it's on hockey night, because of the reaction, the league is going to feel obligated to do something about it. More so than they would if this was a player on Columbus in a game in Dallas. And I think he's 100% right. I don't think there's any disputing that.
What the hell does the location and being in Toronto like? Because everyone around the league complains about, it's Toronto, now they got to put the microscope on this?
It's got a microscope. How many times have there been infractions in this league this year where we haven't even talked about it? We're like, that guy got 2 games. That's interesting. We didn't talk about it. Meanwhile, it was a flying elbow or a high stick to the face. Like, the Leafs are the biggest show in town when it comes to content in this country and in the league and creating a buzz and getting people talking.
I guarantee
and it's hockey night, the last few seconds.
If you talk to anybody in Ottawa, they'd say, you know what? Like, if you had Pooley on and Morgan Rielly got 2 games, I guarantee in an honest moment, Dave Poulin would say, that's probably about right. Slap on the wrist. You got 2 games. Shouldn't do that. Bad boy. Clean history. That's about right. Like,
I think you can make a case for everything. I always try and remove emotion and say, if that was player X and player Y, what would you think? And you got a lot of Leaf fans making noise. If that was Ridly Greig on Morgan Rielly, do you think you'd be saying, okay, that's 2 games? Or would you say, that guy's a rat, and that guy, I think the fan base would be loud going the other way.
What does that matter, though? If you're speaking objectively, what do you care about what the fans are saying?
That's what we're talking about. This is our opinion. I'm saying if we just make our opinion, I think it's 4 games. I think he's getting 4, but honestly, I think he might get more because in person is 5. Gallagher got 5.
Generally, it is. He did get 5.
It's going to be 5.
Okay.
It's going to be 5.
Come on, Hayes.
All right. Anyways, the point being is,
I thought he got 4. He got 5.
Anyways, the point being is, regardless of what he gets, it's more about getting back to what happened. And that's a cross-check that rode up, hit him in the head. It was a retaliatory play. And regardless if you agitated him or not, that's what it's going to be viewed. I guarantee you that's what they're going to say. It wasn't a hockey play. So that's why he's going to get clipped for a bunch of games.
I get it, Noodles. But again, this is also a Department of Player Safety that always suspends based on injury. They claim they don't. They always do. And Ridly Greig got right up. He practiced today. He's fine. Again, we mentioned the Trouba on Frederick. If Frederick's on the ground, blood coming out of his helmet, Trouba's getting
life.
15 games minimum.
Suspended for life.
So they always suspend based on if the player's okay. Always. And Ridly Greig was fine. Again, I'm not disputing it's a suspension. Of course it's a suspension. But I believe the Leafs have a legitimate gripe where it's always the opposite way. People are always like, the Leafs get all the calls because they're in Toronto. No, they don't. But what they do is they get more of a focus when anything happens with their guys. And it leads to a massive reaction. And then I believe the league has a scenario where they're like, we got to really clip this guy or people are going to think we're pro-Leafs. And I just think when you compare this to other infractions that we've seen that have not led to anything close to 5 or 6 games, I don't get it.
Yeah.
We got to clip the Leafs so anyone thinks that we're not pro-Leafs.
Well,
the Leafs haven't hit a guy in 5 years. And all of a sudden, you got to drop a suspension.
But exactly.
On him.
Look at Jason Spezza against was it Morrissey, I think, in Winnipeg. He got 6 games. And that was a violent play. Violent hit, but that was.
I think Jerry reduced that.
He did end up reducing it. Afterwards, he reduced it. Yes, he
You're
did.
a good man, Jerry.
And, Morgan Rielly's he's a Lady Bing candidate. He's never been suspended.
Never been suspended.
And Ridly Greig's okay.
That's what I'm saying. There's lots of cases here. I just honestly believe that it's going to be a big number.
No, we know it's going to be a big game.
I'm not trying to be
but
Noodles, about it.
No one's saying it's not going to be a big. We're talking about whether we think it should be or not. No one's disputing it's going to be. Of course, it's going to be a big
all
number.
the things that we've all described, and Noodles, I've taken into account the idea that it was a retaliatory play. He went after him, stick rode up and hit him in the head. Hayes, you discussed Ridly Greig being at practice. He got right up. I don't even think he was hurt. It shouldn't even matter. But I think if you just put it all together, Riley's history, blah, blah, I just think it's a 2-game suspension. I don't know why that they even had to announce it's an in-person hearing. I was shocked, and I don't care. Trust me, I don't care either way. But to me, it reeks of a 2-game suspension. And you could say him flying down there, he's getting whatever. I think the appropriate action would be 2 games. That's it. Yeah. That's what I think.
Well, and again, you think 2, I think 3, Noodles thinks 4. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. Whatever comes out is what he's going to have to get.
Right.
But, the Leafs have their back up against the wall here. They didn't like the Matthews suspension on Dahlin. That was a suspendable play, 100%. But the same thing. I don't think he had taken a penalty all year. And, face of the league, it was an outdoor game, and I think their gripe was, it's Matthews, it's the Leafs, people are talking about it, and the same thing tonight with Rielly.
But if do you remember Ben Sherratt? Was it Sherratt that cross-checked Matthews in the playoffs or whatever? And we had cross-check gate. Like, it was like people were focusing on cross-checks. You can't. You still have to factor in the people involved in it, and that's what I was talking about. Morgan Rielly's a star player, is an all-star player. If that would have happened against him, we'd be yelling and screaming for Ridly Greig to get 5 or 6 today, would we not?
I like to believe I would say it would be 3. I don't see why I would change my opinion on that, Noodles. Maybe others would. Again, if Morgan Rielly gets right up, Ridly Greig's never been suspended. And I don't know. I can't speak for other Leaf. I don't know, Noodles. Like, I'm not speaking for Leafs Nation here. I don't know what other Leaf fans would say. I'm sure they would be irrational, and I'm sure Ottawa Senators fans are being irrational. I wouldn't change my. You guys ask me that all the time. Well, what if it's offside against the Leafs? I don't change my mind on that.
I don't care.
The same thing.
I'm
yeah,
finish
exactly.
it with this. Any more than 2 games is stupid. You can do what you want. Department of Player Safety, do it. But it's stupid, and you're making an ass of yourself because it's just you put it all together, put it in the blender, and what comes out is 2 games. I don't see how it's more than that. You're making an ass of yourself if you do anything different. Let's talk about the Super Bowl.
The Leafs are gonna. I'm sure they're going to appeal, but it's not going to matter because he's going to miss, whatever amount of games. The appeal process takes forever. And even if, I think even with Spezza, he had already served his 6, and then afterwards they reduced it so he got some money back.
So it's just money?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Although you look at the premise of it, there's people going on both sides, I kind of loved it. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's emotion.
It's emotion.
Yeah,
and
the only thing that sucks,
Ontario.
you know what? The only thing that sucks is there's not another game in the Battle of Ontario because that juiced it up a little bit. And as I said when I first started speaking about it, Ridly Greig, you want to be. I like it because you just don't want to be another guy out there that goes shift for shift and then does nothing. Nobody sees him. You added some spice. You finished your hit. He clocked somebody a couple weeks ago. He ran somebody over against the boards. I don't know who it was, but he crushed them. He did that last night. He's making a name for himself.
Yeah,
He's a pain in the ass. He might have to fight sooner or later because someone's going to really be pissed off. But Morgan Rielly did the same thing. Everybody's like, oh, the violence, this and that. Watch something else. There's no violence in hockey anymore. You watch so many garbage games and no-hitters. And look, I don't want kids to go out there and start cross-checking. But he pissed Morgan Rielly off, and he went over there, and he gave him the business. He should get 2 games. I don't think there's any more. I see grown-ass men arguing on Twitter and the nonsense that's going on. It's like, one thing happened, and as I said, you do something against the grain, it's going to cause a reaction from somebody. Morgan Rielly's Peros is going to react to it, and Ridly Greig, Morgan Rielly reacted to it. And something's going to happen. We'll just see how bad it's going to be. But I think any more than 2 is nonsense.
And I think it sucks, too, because, and I know their opponents aren't world beaters, but they're still good teams here. St. Louis, Philadelphia, you got to play. You're going to be out without your number 1 defenseman. People better step up here.
This will be this could be a rallying cry. I mean, that's what I'll say on this is that at least have an opportunity. I think it's a fork in the road here. You say, we're screwed, and now we lost Morgan, and we lost again, and woe is us. Or do you say, screw it, take on the world against us, or whatever you want, whichever way you want to phrase it, us versus the world. Go out there, win some games without him, and when he rolls back into that room, it can be a feel-good story. That's up to the Leafs to determine how they're going to do this. Dan Patrick in about 15 minutes. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
Thanks to Robert Zamboni, at Robert Zamboni, for telling me it starts with 5. Thanks, Robert Zamboni.
Bob Zamboni. All right. Shout out to Bob Zamboni.
I just tweets me. It's minimum 5 with an in-person. Thank you, Bob Zamboni. Like, Jesus.
What's great right now? Some of the memes, like the Kelce and Reid memes, like I saw Bar Down post one of Kelce in a Leaf jersey and Andy Reid in a Sens jersey, and Kelce's yelling, "Don't take slap shots in an empty net."
I saw that one, that meme. That was so funny.
It's so great. And people
Dude, if they didn't win that game, and then that would have blew up into something. Andy Reid was pissed.
He should be.
I don't care.
I guarantee. Like he diffused it, and after the game, he's like, "Yeah, it happens sometimes." He was like, "What the hell do you think you're doing? Like, don't cross the boundaries. I'm the coach. This is the Super Bowl. Don't mess around."
Oh, he's probably calling him in a week. You ever do that again, I will literally punch you right in the face.
Yes. All right, Dan Patrick on the Super Bowl, what he made of Kelce versus Reid, and so much more. He'll join us in hour 2. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.